Thank you for having me here. It's truly a dream come true moment, and thanks, Dr. Vikram Jain, for pulling this off and assembling us. And I'm really happy that so many of us are joining this movement. So I'm Dr. Vetri Kumar. I'm here to talk about the fundamental principles of kinematic alignment. So first, we need to understand how a natural knee behaves in order to recreate the kinematics of the native knee joint. So in 1993, Anne Hollister came up with this landmark study where she showed that the center of rotation, that's the flexion extension axis, is like a single arc of movement. And prior to that, in 1970s, it was always thought about instantaneous center of rotation. And that's primarily because of, people always used to look at the images through radiographs. Prior to that, in 1830s, actually Weber actually came up and saying that it's actually a single arc of movement. But however, in 1993, Anne Hollister she also told that it's the flexion extension axis can be approximated to the transepicondylar line. So that's something which Donald Eckhoff challenged in 2003, and he said that the flexion extension axis is a single arc, but then however it is a cylindrical axis. It's like simply like fitting a best fit cylinder in the both medial and the lateral condyles. And if you really look at the image in the 2D image, you can see that both the transepicondylar line and the cylindrical axis looks more or less the same, more or less parallel to each other. But then when you put it in the three-dimensional space, you can see that it's way away. It's almost 11 degrees away, the cylindrical axis. So what he has mentioned in his paper is that the best way to recreate the cylindrical axis is to use only the articular surface of the condyles and not your valgus cutting angle and not your transepicondylar line. And the second axis is the patellar axis, which has been demonstrated by Bainan and group and Justin Cobb and group, where they again demonstrated that the patellar axis is a simple single arc of movement, and this axis is just proximal and anterior to the first axis, the flexion extension axis. And then the third axis was the internal external rotation axis, which you just saw in the previous slides, described by the Freeman and Pinskrova in 2005, where they demonstrated very well that the medial compartment is extremely stable from 10 degrees to 120 degrees. It hardly moves approximately just 1.5 millimeter, but then the lateral condyle is the one which nicely rolls back posteriorly and also slides. By then, you also see that the femur externally rotates and the tibia internally rotates. So before that, what was the common concept was the Oxford group who demonstrated the 4-bar linkage, where we all thought that it's a symmetrical rollback of both the condyles, but then this has been disproved. So now we have the three targets of kinematic alignment, the green one, which is the flexion extension axis of the knee joint, where the tibia revolves around the cylindrical axis of the femur. The purple one, which is the flexion extension of the patella, which is just proximal and anterior. And then the yellow one, which is the internal external rotation axis of the tibia, which falls in the medial compartment of the knee joint. So the beauty of this is these three axes falls exactly perpendicular or parallel to the pre-arthritic joint line. So by definition, if you are able to position your femoral component and the tibial component close to this pre-arthritic joint line, that means you are co-aligning your components to all these three axes. So the surgical sequence goes like this. However, you'll be seeing the detail how we perform the surgery in the next talk. The sequence is, first you need to get your femur right. Get the femur to close to the pre-arthritic joint line, and then next restore the tibial pre-arthritic joint line, and then do your extension and flexion gaps. And then if it is not satisfying, then you need to do a fine-tuning of your gaps only by recuts and not by doing any soft tissue releases. So how we get the cylindrical axis is by using a single radius femur and then resurface the femur using the implant as per the implant thickness minus the compensating for the cartilage wear, which is 2 millimeter in most of the cases, and also minus the saw blade curve, which is 1 millimeter. So after every resection, this is the most critical step where you need to do a quality check. You are going to verify your bony resections using your caliper. So if it is the beauty of kinematic alignment is, if your resections are not right, then you don't proceed further. You have to readjust your cuts then and there, and then only you can proceed. So you need to do a QC purely by seeing how much you're resected and not by looking at your, even if you use a robotic, not by looking at your robots. You need to understand how much you've resected, whether have you executed your plan just by looking at the measurements using calipers. So why we always start with the femur? Because this is a great paper from Howell and group where they analyzed almost 205 arthritic knees who underwent total knee arthroplasty, and ranging from almost 25 degree of varus to 15 degree of valgus, and they found that there is no bony wear in the femur at 0 and 90 degrees. It's only the cartilage which has been worn out. So that's why they concluded that you don't need to actually adjust for femoral bone wear for grade 3 and grade 4 at 0 and 90 degrees. And then there's a great paper from the Indian group of surgeons where they wanted to understand where the wear pattern happens in the OA. So they took 102 cadavers where cadavers who are above 50 years who had a history of knee pain, and then they graded the cartilage wear into grade 4 and grade 5. So 4 being just the cartilage which has been worn out and having an eburnated subchondral bone, whereas the fifth grade is almost like bone loss. And then they found that the medial femoral condyle, the medial and lateral femoral condyle only had grade 4. There's only the cartilage which has been worn out, but there's no bone loss which has happened. Whereas you can see that only in the tibial plateau, you can see that there's a lot of bone loss which keeps happening. So it's very safe to say that the femur is the only reliable landmark to reproduce in the kinematic alignment. So just to, again, go through what we have learned so far. The first is recreating the cylindrical axis, which is described by Donald Eckhoff, where there's like the medial and the lateral femoral condyles, and this is the axis, and if you can notice, it's not the same as the transepicondylar line, and that's the axis where the tibia revolves around the femur. And then you have the second axis, which is the internal external rotation axis, which is described by Freeman and Pinskarova, and this axis falls exactly on the medial compartment of the knee joint. And the medial compartment is extremely stable, and it's just the lateral compartment which just rolls and slides back. And in order to recreate these axes, you need to restore the posterior joint line and the distal joint line by compensating for the cartilage wear and the bone and the saw blade curve. So once you get the cylindrical axis by placing the femoral component, and then now you can imagine that doing a kinematic alignment TKA is very similar to building a swing. The first thing what we need to do is restore the flexion extension axis, get the cylindrical axis right, and then you can imagine that both the collateral ligaments is going to be the ropes of the swing, and then this dictates your tibial plane of resection. So you need to have a really stable seat of the swing, right? So the plane of this tibial, the tibial resection needs to be stable, which is parallel to the flexion extension axis, the cylindrical axis. So many of us think that kinematic alignment is just about resecting just as per the implant thickness. No, it is not. It's a purely well-balanced knee joint. Most of the times you will end up here. And so if your bony resections are right, you will definitely get a snug fit, nice and rectangular extension gap. So there is no negotiation here, unlike a mechanical alignment, where we normally accept a little bit 3 to 4 millimeter or 2 to 3 millimeter of opening in the lateral side. So we always accept only a snug fit rectangular extension gap. And if your resections are right, you will definitely end up in getting a trapezoidal flexion gap, and you check it by having a spacer block. And so just like how your normal knee works. So I'd like to conclude that you perform kinematic alignment when you don't change your femur side. So you always resurface the femur, recreate the cylindrical axis, get the medial compartment, get a rectangular extension gap and a trapezoidal flexion gap at 90 degrees. And then you measure all your resections with your caliper and you record it in your verification sheet. Thank you.